Pat is a 19-year-old learner that is deemed as a novice adolescent. A novice adolescent is a learner whose age range is in between 10 to 20 years old, and their skills are placed in between the cognitive and associative stage. The participant has had no previous experience in cricket before, only briefly in casual backyard cricket. Her experience of backyard cricket has helped as she knows the basics of the desired motor skill at a low cognitive associative stage level. Motor control plays a crucial role in the learning process relating to sport. Motor control allows us to interact with our body and the environment. Particularly, motor control and learning plays a particular role in the specific skills of batting, which is a key component in cricket. Without the underlying knowledge of motor learning, it is difficult to understand and achieve the specific movements involved. Motor learning is the underlying performance and retention of motor skills. According to a study, there are 3 stages of the Fitz and Posner: cognitive, associative, and autonomous stages of learning. The cognitive stage is the ability to receive instructions for practice, limiting the complexity of a skill and the amount of instructions to develop a movement. The associative stage is the attention of refining specific skills, and lastly, the autonomous stage of learning is where the execution of the skills is thought to be automatic. Motor learning correlates with the skill you are trying to master. There are various motor control theories to improve the execution of skills. For example, the top-down theory, which is a theoretical approach to the interpretation of incoming information based on knowledge. It is also known as the information processing model, where the command center in the CNS makes all of the decisions regarding the movement.
The skill of batting complies as a gross motor skill as it uses larger body movements, in this case the hands, wrists, and legs when performing certain shots. In regards to Genital's taxonomy, the table takes into consideration the environmental task constraints, allowing us to rank the skill. Batting is ranked at 4B on this scale. It is an in-motion skill that is performed in an open environment, as well as requiring body stability whilst manipulating the object. In this case, it is the cricket bat. This is important to understand as it allows us to know what skills batting requires, helping us to develop a specified program. In the video provided on the screen, you can see that Pat has a familiarity with batting, but can be clearly identified as a novice. This is due to inexperience playing the sport. It is clear that she understands the basic technique of batting as she is able to make contact with the ball, but does not have the ability to step into the ball when batting, therefore creating restrictions on her movement. As Pat goes to hit the ball, her right elbow seems restricted, which does not allow her to execute the movement correctly. It is identified that she is unable to process correct information to complete the movements in regard to the skill. As you can see, a professional cricket batsman has the ability to apply their knowledge of the sport into the skill. In the video provided, the batsman effectively steps into the ball with the ability to make direct contact. He starts off with a small stance, then as the ball comes closer, his stance opens up in order to create the most effective contact with the ball. His hand and wrist positioning is closer together to imply the correct technique. Another trait the professional athlete has is the ability of following through. This allows them to react with emotion after the ball leaves his bat.
Pat can improve her batting through a training program to enhance her motor learning and motor skills involved in this movement. The training program consists of 3 sessions over a period of 4 weeks. The program will include homework sections that Pat has to complete without the practitioner present. Using a top-down theory, this training program that you can see on your screen will implement motor control principles to aid in Pat's performance.
So I'm going to drop it.
Oh, and am I just
and
going
you're
to
just
hit
going
it?
to hit it.
Okay.
Yeah. When the ball drops, ready? You drop it for me.
Okay.
So let it bounce. Give it a little bounce.
We approach this program with a hands-on approach, allowing Pat to develop a more effective performance. As Pat isn't familiar with all these drills, the practitioner demonstrated, explained, critiqued and corrected any errors that occurred when performing the drills. The benefit of demonstration and critique from the practitioner is that it will stimulate recognition and growth in the brain to familiarize the correct movement of the skill. This program associates with a distributed practice method, as it allows for the learner to be physically engaged in practice and the attempts are equal to or greater than the practice component. Looking at the picture on the screen, the practice component is smaller compared to the rest period. This will therefore lead to a better performance as the session goes on throughout 4 weeks. This also allowed Pat to become more associative with her batting accuracy. With this skill, there are a series of principles that can be applied to batting. The complexity of this skill is high, therefore it is a method of part practice. There are different types of part practice. In this case, the method of simplification implemented throughout the program. Simplification reduces the level of difficulty of a task. This is applied in the first week of the training program and will break down the difficult components in batting. Over the 4 weeks, each week will slowly become more complex for the learner.
When the ball drops, ready? You drop it for me.
Okay.
So let it bounce, give it a little bounce.
In the first 2 weeks of training, we have implemented augmented feedback. The augmented feedback can connect with the learner's action to a desired performance or to an instruction given by the practitioner. This is allowing her to perform at an optimal level and becomes part of the task itself. Through this video shown on the screen, you can see the practitioner is giving verbal and terminal feedback after the performance. Providing feedback to novice learners helps teach and understand the desired actions needed to complete the movement or skill in a correct manner, therefore improving overall performance. In reference to observing errors involved in this skill, Pat was unfamiliar with the correct way to hold the bat. This skill is important to master as it helps with the ability to complete the correct movement and create direct contact with the ball. Pat's foot movement was extremely limited. This creates restricted movement. Foot movement is a key element in allowing you to access the ball and avoid being squared up. Getting your footwork in bad positions creates the effect of being unable to access the ball and imply minimal direct contact to hit.
In week 1 of the program, we are focusing on drop hits and bat taps. As you can see, simplification has been used as the drill is simplistic and basic practice of the skills. As weeks go on, the practice will become more complex in order to improve the skill effectively. Drop hits is a skill in itself. It helps the learner consistently keep their eye on the ball to create contact. This practice will help Pat develop an understanding of the importance of watching the ball. Bat taps is also another remake of a practice to help with ball watching. Including this in the program will create a challenge for Pat to progressively improve the amount of times she can keep the ball up. Week 2 will consist of progression and a more complex task of week 1's practice skill. This week implements a target to hit. Pat will complete drop hits but aim for a cone. This will create target fixing and help with improving direction to hit the ball in specific areas of interest. As the skill of batting is all about direction of the ball, implementing this practice skill will help develop the understanding of how to apply this in a game. Week 3 and 4 are more distributed practice, shorter and more frequent sessions. These sessions will include even more complex movements and practice of the skill. The practitioner will now be including overarm and underarm throws to replicate a real-life situation of cricket. The skills the learner has been practicing over the past weeks will now need to be implemented all together to adhere to the skill. By the end of the 4-week program, Pat should be in the associative stage of learning. She should be able to perform the movement sequence smoothly with correct technique and improve her confidence in the skill. Putting together all the practice skills, Pat should be able to develop an understanding of how to perform the movement skill of batting and improve her performance from the beginning.